So my name is Robert. I work for a company called Development Seed. We're based in DC, and we do communications and technology strategy for international development and humanitarian relief groups. One of the software platforms we work on a lot is called Drupal, and so today I kind of want to talk about how Drupal fits as a crisis mapping platform. First off, Drupal is not a crisis mapping platform. Out of the box, it actually does very little. You kind of get this weird blog thing and blah, blah, blah. But as a developer, it actually provides a really powerful set of tools that we can put together to build very, very custom applications for very, very custom use cases. And this is kind of my itch to scratch for the weekend. If Drupal was to become a sort of out-of-the-box crisis mapping tool, what would that look like? So first off, what is a crisis mapping platform? And I think this is a conversation I'd love to have with everyone here over the weekend. Like, really, what does it need to do? Scholars here in the audience might sort of take issue with how I'm going to define it. But I'm first going to say that it needs to do three things. It needs to take data in from a variety of sources. Second, it needs to make that data useful. It needs to make it actionable. And third, it needs to take the data back out so people can use it in different and interesting ways. So let's take a look at those three things in the context of Drupal. First off, user input. Drupal is, at its core, a content management system. So it has a lot of powerful tools to let people, through a web interface, add custom data. So there's very customizable sort of user input forms, lots of different ways to take this data and make it spatially relevant. Second, sort of the other end of the spectrum, SMS. This is something we're going to be talking a lot about over the weekend. But we've integrated with Slingshot SMS, which basically just takes a text message, posts it to a web server, where Drupal can then do interesting things with it. Third, feeds. This is, again, we've heard a lot about this morning. GeoRSS, KML, RSS, CSV, a lot of different ways of sharing data and pushing it around. And Drupal does all this fairly well. While we're talking about getting data in, I think it's important to just put this up there. I don't know if anyone actually needs to hear this, but if you're an organization that collects useful data and then wants to share it around, the absolute least effective way you can do this is to bake it into a PDF. And I don't care if this is tabular data or map data, but we should all just take a minute and sort of internalize this slide right here. Next, making data actionable. So we're talking about mapping this weekend. Drupal does this pretty well. We integrate a lot with the OpenLayers JavaScript library, which is open source. And that gives you the sort of zoom in, zoom out, pan around, add data to a map kind of features. It can take in sort of the custom base layers that you're seeing on the bottom right there, as well as overlay it with real-time data coming from a variety of sources, whether that's feeds or SMS or user input or any of the things we've been talking about. Also, graphs and charts. You know, we all love maps, but sometimes this is a appropriate way of showing data, and Drupal does that pretty well as well. And then finally, again, because Drupal is at its core a content management system, you get a lot of sort of things out of the box with that, whether that's commenting or flagging or posting things to Facebook or posting things to Twitter. And it's all about taking data in and doing things with it. Getting data out is another thing that Drupal does pretty well. We can export for KML, export for RSS and GeoRSS. One of the things that I really love about the GeoCommons platform, if you ever go to finder.geocommons.com, which isn't Drupal, every data set in there can be downloaded from KML, shapefile, or CSV. And I think that should absolutely be the standard in all the things that we're all working on. So here's kind of the rub, right? Every crisis is different. Every ecology of data, user stories, on-the-ground situations is different. So an out-of-the-box sort of solution is something that I'm sort of struggling with. How do we make these tools that we're building custom enough or customizable enough to be useful in a very particular situation? At the same time, rapid onset crises, you don't have time to sort of, you know, haggle with a bunch of wonky developers who want to get really into the weeds about user stories and what an individual is going to do in this particular case or this particular part of the platform. etc. So our solution, or at least our working solution at the moment, is to run with something called a Drupal install profile. And basically what that does is it removes the sort of current out-of-the-box Drupal situation, which I said is kind of a dumb blog, and allows developers to pre-package a bunch of different features that we think are going to be general enough to meet particular use cases. And this is really taking off a lot in the Drupal community right now, which is why I put up the DrupalCon Paris ad, which happened earlier in September. And so we've built two so far, so I want to talk about those and just give you an idea of what those look like. First is Open Atrium. It is an open source, out-of-the-box, team-based communications tool. The World Bank and Oxfam and IFPRI and a variety of other organizations are using this as an intranet. And the neat thing about it is, out of the box, it is a very solid intranet. We've had 60,000 downloads since we released it in July. But I really love the sort of question mark up in the right-hand corner because we've built it in such a way that will allow people to add new features or customize the features that are in there. And what we're seeing now in the Drupal community is that there's lots of other people that are building extra add-on features to it and putting it up in places where it can be downloaded. And so that's really neat to see that sort of community, coming to bear on this project and just making it better for everyone. The second one we're working on now is called Managing News. And I guess this is sort of a product announcement because as of next Wednesday, anyone will be able to download this and use it. It's totally open source and free. So Managing News, what is it? Again, it's an install profile, so out of the box it does a few things. At its root, it sucks in data from a variety of different feeds. These can be Twitter, these can be mainstream news, these can be SMS. And then once it's in the system, it does things with it, right? It makes this data actionable, it makes it useful. Here you're seeing density points of H1N1. And then, I don't have a good slide for this, unfortunately. But there's also a lot of other things. People can take particular news stories, flag them for their coworkers, post them to Twitter, post them to Facebook, put them into particular republishing feeds that can then go out and via RSS or GeoRSS into other platforms. And again, we're trying to build it in the same way that we build Open Atrium, with the idea that it's very extensible, flexible, people can build things onto it. And we've already started doing this for a project we're working on around the Afghanistan elections. Come by the tech fair, I can show you more of the details. Thanks.